time to end what part 1 started. And if you missed it, then I'll keep spoilers out of the intro. After arguing with myself for a number of years, my brain cells finally reached a simple conclusion. If I only had a Wii, and could only have 10 games for it, then these titles are coming with me. Hate to waste a new intro on such a short beginning, but let's finally finish this off. While not exactly having the same amount of hours I've deposited like some of the other games in the full list, this one earned its rank for one specific reason. Despite its colorful and cartoonish cast of characters, Zack and Wiki is by far the most hair-pulling, teeth-clenching, sweat-inducing puzzle game I have ever played. How hard is it? You can actually die in the opening level, the game's equivalent to a tutorial mode. You know how you can solve a puzzle in Zelda and think, well, I'll never forget how to do that? Using that train of thought gets you thrown onto the tracks. The game's second boss can vouch for that. Nothing can be overlooked. Every item you can pick up or object you can interact with has a reason to be there. Don't overlook them! Even animals and bugs can be turned into your own personal tools. Which is kinda cool, because you never really know what they're gonna turn into on your first time playing. After playing for a while, you begin to realize your college degree is a lie! The only easy thing to figure out is that plot twist. I mean, how could you not see that coming? I don't feel bad for potentially spoiling that, because they didn't do a good job of hiding it. Zack may not always go where I want him to, and the motion controls may look absolutely basic, but the way in which you use them can actually help you connect to the game more than you'd expect. A number of you probably remember me talking about this game in that first Easter egg list I did. Good times. It reminds me of when awesome things were actually awesome. There are two things that can help me get a video done faster. A high view count on a previous upload. If this video gets 25,000 views in the first 4 days, I'll work on that colorless list like crazy. And your comments. Simply put, I love reading what you guys have to say. I get to see what's on your mind, what you really enjoyed. Constructive criticism? Jackpot! The ones that easily catch my eyes are the ones that try to predict the new videos, as it will let me see who's on the ball and who's way off. I can't wait to see those happy comments about being right. Ryan R., it's your lucky day! Return to Dreamland was when I was starting to take an interest in the Kirby franchise. I may have played 4 Kirby games before, but there was something magical about this one. The Kirby games are known for a number of strong elements, but the one that appeals to me the most are the copy abilities. RTD not only had a huge stash, but also had plenty of ways to use them. It's like getting a new toy, playing around with it, and right before the moment you start to get bored and never want to see it again, they give you another one, and the cycle repeats. I like owning this toy store. I don't know how they managed to balance it so well. True, a number of other Kirby games did this as well, but what can I say? I found more enjoyment in this one. The game's overall difficulty might be a little on the no-sweat side, but with this much fun to play around with, it's not a worry in the slightest. I haven't been able to do a full playthrough of the game since I got it and beat it, so the level designs and even the boss fights are a little low in my memory banks. Which is another reason the power-ups stand out to me so much! How can I not enjoy making fresh kebabs? How can I not have Kirby use HM3? Why would I ever trade any of them for a nap? With so many playful abilities and so many uses for them, I can easily see myself returning to Toyland. Eeny, meeny, miny.
Have you made up your mind?
Yep. When Twilight Princess was announced for both Wii and GameCube, I knew which version I was going for. A new Zelda game to play on my new console? Why should I wait for the other one? Take a guess at which one I'm gonna buy. While I like my games to be bright and colorful, I tend to gravitate more to the realistic and detailed style when it comes to this legendary series. And when that teaser trailer was shown, I wasn't the only one! Twilight Princess holds the current record for most Zelda dungeons in a 3D Zelda title, quite possibly the best partner in the series, who also saw great character development, what was once the largest Hyrule field, and taking way too much inspiration from Ocarina of Time. I've heard people say the characters weren't the most expressive in this installment, and I don't know what game they were playing, as I could clearly see what the characters were feeling. Also, why do they move their mouths when there's no real voice acting? You bunch of teasers! I do feel that while the dungeons weren't complete cakewalks, the puzzles didn't exactly have the greatest challenge to them. I even beat the infamous Master Sword stone statue setup in under 4 minutes without using a guide! And the bosses, with a few exceptions, was probably the weakest in the series. Regardless, Twilight Princess still has a great cast of characters, most of them truly memorable, and others can give disturbing a new meaning. Don't take my soul! Lots of wonderful set pieces, and my personal favorite boss gauntlet in the franchise near the end of the journey. Oh, and the minigames? Sometimes it's hard to pass them up. Even heroes gotta relax every once in a while too, you know? Delaying TP for the Wii was slightly painful, but evidently paid off in the long run. Like you, Nintendo, I'm hoping that same tactic pays off again.
I guess you aren't stupid.
7th place.
I like to look at the 7th generation of video game consoles as the retro revival, and you couldn't get any more retro than the Blue Bomber himself. Instead of using fancy pants graphics, he went back to his original 8-bit glory days, sound effects and music tracks included. It was so great, they gave us another, and now it's time to pick again, 9 or 10. 9 for me had the better soundtrack and weapons, which made it a strong contender, but ultimately I gave it a 10. 9 is great in its own right, however, there were a few things that gave 10 a lift over 9. The level designs, while full of wee moments, were based more on memorization. Knowing where the traps are can make for a fun speedrun, but 10 felt like a mix of both traps and actual platforming challenge. It also had one more stage, came with a character he had to pay for in the last one, offered another character through DLC, was still $2 less than the previous title while having more content, and its hard mode is so accurate, I still haven't cleared it! You have a list of winners like Blade Man, Commando Man, and Nitro Man. Those guys are so cool, I'll spare slitting this one's throat. This wasn't the first time where I've had to choose between 2 entries in the same series for the list, and you know by the thumbnail, it won't be the last. Don't you just love those spoilers?
6th place.
The first half of the Wii list was a nightmare in terms of where everything was going. I've lost track of how many times each entry was switched around. This side of the list was nowhere near as indecisive, save for 10th place. Sometimes I do need to have one entry just barely above another, and then there are times where 2 entries can be switched around, and it makes no difference to me. Remember that Nintendo franchise list? 5th and 4th could have easily have switched places, and I wouldn't have lost sleep over it. Which brings us to what could be either 6th or 5th. It's a Sonic entry. Sonic and me on the Wii got along pretty well. At least for the ones I played. I could even enjoy Secret Rings in the first Olympics, and while I didn't care for Waggle Knight and the bland level designs, I didn't hate it. Unleashed with its amazing daytime levels could have been the representative here, but let's face it, this entry belongs to Colors. For the first time in what felt like forever, a majority of the Sonic fans could agree, Colors was solid. A story that didn't take itself seriously, nor did it have a monster that turns on Eggman, a soundtrack that's as catchy as it is fitting, and the visual presentation was one of the best on the Wii, in my opinion. I love the Eggman PAs. I almost don't mind stopping dead in my tracks to listen to them.
The mighty ocean, trivialized for your amusement at Eggman's incredible interstellar amusement park.
The settings are so memorable, they could be considered as iconic. Colorful, vibrant, lively, you do Sonic Legacy proud. This is also the first time we can play as Super Sonic on just about any stage in the 3D titles. Which brings me to one of the few things I was disappointed with. It was way more 2D than 3D, and the 3D parts barely had anything to them. And I'm not a fan of the way they grade your performance. I'd rather blow through the level as fast as I can, not spend a few minutes getting cheap wisp points. What can I say? I had expectations, and it still met a lot of them.
Wow, sometimes I even impress myself.
Here's to your 25th being good, great, awesome, outstanding, and amazing, Blue Blur.
5th place.
I remember hearing some fans say that Nintendo didn't really give their IPs a chance to shine during the Wii's lifespan, and were only focused on making Wii stuff. Honestly, I have to disagree with that. While it is true that some franchises, mainly Star Fox and F-Zero who set this console generation out, others were far more fortunate. Here's the evidence. 2 Kirby games, 2 Zelda games, 2 Metroid games, 3 Mario platformers, another installment of Battalion Wars, Mario Strikers and Mario Sluggers, a Fire Emblem game, and having some older franchises revived when they were thought to have been dead. There are fewer moments of joy in a gamer's life when you see a long-forgotten yet cherished IP make a comeback. Oh yeah, nothing gets you dancing like Darunia, like seeing them return. Retro Studios had my attention after doing the Metroid Prime trilogy, and when I heard that they were giving DK a spin, they became someone I wanted to send chocolates and flowers to. You brought my childhood back. How can I repay you? They studied as hard as they could to get the feeling of the originals down, and you can tell these Einsteins made the grade. The original DKC series was known for so many things, and these guys got nearly all of it. The difficulty, the roll jump, the difficulty, the music, the difficulty, the locations, the difficulty, the secrets, the difficulty, and certainly not least, the charm. Sadly, not everything returned with the country. There are only a total of 3 Kongs around here, Rambi is the only animal buddy, and our favorite Crocs set this and the follow-up out. I can only hope that we'll see a 3rd installment on the NX, since I don't trust rumors without good evidence. And with more of what I just mentioned, may the Banana Slammer live on!
4th place.
How do you tick off the competitive scene? You tell me like Brawl more than Melee. I don't know why some people think that I care about wave dashing, or that everyone else has to think it's the one defining feature of the series and every title in the franchise that lacks it is inferior. Cry me a tier list. Don't care about that either. Wanna buy a torch and pitchfork? I bet you just can't do wave dashing or rail canceling. Darn right I can't. I'm at the highest level of casual in this series apparently. Now that that's established, hit that dislike button and let's move on. While Brawl had a number of shortcomings, tripping, and that dark secret, I found it as an ironic upgrade. Haven't dusted that term off in a while. The minor issues I had with Melee were fixed, such as C-stick usage outside of General Smash, easier time grabbing ledges, tap jump off, I love that one, and the roster of brawlers. Smashers who should have been there were there, third-party guests that either got a whoa or a yes out of ya, and only 2 semi-mods while the returning ones were changed just a tiny bit more. Yep, still using that term from the review. Also, I'd like to say that what I said about its recommendation level is not the equivalent of a 0 out of 5, as some of you jump to conclusions about. I'd like to ask, how would you recommend a game to someone that could lead to having your game or even your system need to be repaired or replaced? These guys know what I'm talking about. Even with that, I still love Brawl. The soundtrack, the stages, the fighters, and even the things it doesn't get enough credit for. While I can't say I'd rather play you more than Smash Wii U, you've left quite the memories with me. For better or worse.
3rd place.
Now it's writing time.
What? You thought Shulk was the one to say that? You're funny. Chances are, you're gonna find this near the top of many Wii lists. Or at least the ones that picked it up. And if you're wondering why, well, you could always download it for 20 bucks on the Wii U and find out for yourself. There are plenty of elements that set this game apart from nearly every title in the genre. Let's put aside the usual fantastic places, captivating cast of characters, strong story, and dazzling soundtrack, and take the road less traveled.
I need to be even stronger.
Woohoo! Experience points for just exploring? As if these places weren't gorgeous enough, they give me more of a reason to procrastinate. Plus they can give you warp points and the usual side quests around every corner. If that didn't make it sound easy enough to level up, then look at this! Automatic recovery after battles! Imagine if Pokemon allowed your team to recover HP and power points after every battle without an item or an ability. Maybe Nurse Joy would be a bit more friendly on her time off. One intense battle after another, and pit stops are never a concern. Man, this game spoils me sometimes. I mean, you might as well just let me see what my enemies are gonna do. Oh wait! The heir of the Monado can see the future for short periods of time, and when danger is close at hand. But knowing isn't even half the battle. You need to make sure you pick the right way to deal with the upcoming threat, then act upon it as fast as you can. There's so much more to this game, but I'd rather you play it for yourself. Or wait for whenever I get the review done, whatever comes first. Don't need a Monado to see it, probably won't be the latter.
2nd place.
In space, no one can hear you wahoo! You also can't breathe in space, so unless realism is as fun as how well the gravity works, it can go get sucked into a black hole for all I care. Mario's adventure in space was so grand, they made a sequel that was almost more or less like the first one. And after all this time, I finally know which one I'm putting on the list.
Super Mario Galaxy! Woohoo!
I see the arguments both ways. Galaxy 2 is too much like the first one. Agree. How can you improve on what is considered to have the best controls and presentation on the console, besides fixing the side of the spheres? Agree. Galaxy 2 had well thought out level designs. Agree. Galaxy 2 wouldn't even exist if the Wii could handle proper DLC. Agree. Even with Yoshi and the Cloud Mushroom, the first one left a huge impact on me that the second one just had trouble getting out of its shadows. I can't even begin to describe how much I love the soundtrack. I know I've said that about nearly all of these entries, but Galaxies is as beautiful to listen to as the world you run around in. But what about that oh so important element known as fun? Are you kidding me? How can I not have a good time when the entire universe is my playground? I'll save the princess! Right after a few more swings. I even like bouncing around as the spring. It's going to be hard to go over the bar that Galaxy set, but not too many games can hit that astronomical level that was set in the first place. This ought to be interesting. Anyone who has paid close enough attention to my channel for the last few years should have a good idea of what game claimed the gold trophy. I can only imagine the confused looks that newer viewers must have, since a lot of the bigger titles have already been put on here. A number of you are predicting it would be on the list somewhere, but I doubt a lot of you guessed it would be numero uno. That's some good pizza. And while I could punt around with its title, I'll just say, I'm glad I got this treasure. Oh, I can see a couple of those angry comments now. You put some run-and-gun game above Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and even Let's Tap? Yeah, your blood's on fire, that's adorable. Those not writing something along those lines have probably played the game and understand why. Well, it's probably not their first pick, but I'm sure they have a big old grin on their face while watching this. Heck, I'm probably responsible for introducing them to this hidden gem of a game. If I did, please let me know in the comments. So what compelled me to put it above everything else I've played on the system? To put it simply, it was not only the closest to a Star Fox game I could get on the Wii, but in some aspects, it actually surpasses it! To play this game on another system, I'd need some kind of peripheral, but not here. The peripheral/controller is the ideal choice of playing this game for me. I have no idea why you would want to use two C-sticks for this. Got a trigger finger? You may not put the game down. Infinite ammo plus a lightsaber-type sword for melee and return to senders, plus a charge shot, plus hovering, and expert dodging skills? You don't wreck things, you obliterate them! Dozens and hundreds of enemies! Should've just called in sick, but I'm glad they're here trying. Who else is gonna give me those points? Remember those days when getting a better score was what kept you coming back? Man, I feel old. What's the story like? Shoot first, forget about it later. You wanna know what the levels feel like? Imagine being on a roller coaster for about 10 minutes to over an hour, and you have a good idea of what to expect. The only time the action slows down is after a hectic battle, just so you can catch your breath. Yeah, your reward is mercy, and a little health. You'll get plenty of checkpoints, and you'll need every single one of them. Have I mentioned those boss fights yet? You'll encounter roughly 4 to 8 diverse and engaging bosses per level, and they don't hold anything back, which is good since you can send most of their attacks right back at them. Don't have the reflexes for a game like this? You could always be a wingman. What more can I really say? It's easy to pick up and play, simple enough to understand, and challenging enough to never feel boring or even repetitive. Video games should always be about the gameplay, and while this one may seem a little basic, I'm practically hypnotized every time I play it, making it a more than worthy successor to its N64 predecessor. And that's it for this long overdue and delayed list, and as always, if you have a difference of opinion, I'd love to hear your 10 or even 20 favorite Wii games. That's the only part I legitimately hate in this game. I'm just putting that on record. I hate this little monster, and I don't know that many people that like it either. One overdue list off my back, and the Kalos list to go. I know I still have the Battlefront EA review to finish up, but sadly, the disappointingly low view count kind of forced me to work on this video. Plus, I really wanted to get both Wii parts and the upcoming Kalos list off my back. Oh, and if you're wondering where's Rayman Origins, like I said, best saved for another day. But now, it's time for a video plug. The Plant Commander's Top 10 I Feel Bad Moments in Video Games. You will find both solid narration and editing in this list. I do feel that some parts actually could have been a little bit longer, with some more detail explained, but you had proper setup for your entries and a sound explanation for your choices, and that's sometimes all you need. And if you've got a list, review, or a well-made opinion video that you feel really comfortable about, or very proud of the hard work that you did, then send me a message here on YouTube, yes, you can still do that, with a link to your video, or even on my Twitter account that you'll see in the description box. I'm almost out of plugs, so now could be your chance. As for the future video, honestly, I'm not sure. I want to finish up that Battlefront EA review, but I kinda want to do one for Mighty No. 9 while it's still relevant. But if this gets 25,000 views in the first 4 days, then Kalos list, here we come! Guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens first. And with all that said, I will see you guys in another video. Later, everyone!